it's in the agenda. They want it right here after we call the meeting to order. Are we all here that's going to be here? Okay, let's call the meeting to order. And we have motion. Microphone. Thank you.
There you go. Okay, everybody hear me now? Madam Chair, I make a motion to amend the agenda for the 3/9/21 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting due to the inclusion of a presentation as a business item from Jeff Barnes, City of Nampa Deputy Public Works Director. Transportation requesting feedback from the commission for his presentation to the City Council as a public hearing item on March 15th, 2021 City Council agenda.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda has been amended. All right, approval of minutes. Did you guys have any corrections to the minutes?
Madam Chair, I make the motion, we accept the minutes of the meeting as written.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Report on council actions. Do we have?
Yes.
Oh,
Madam
hey.
Chairman, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I'll be brief. We had a pretty light hearing on March the 1st, only 3 public hearing items. 2 were annexation and zoning requests one was to IL and the other one was a BC zone. And then the third was a zoning map amendment. So they went through all approved. The main item, I think, as a takeaway from our meeting on the 1st was our concern that we're watching Senate Bill 1108 and how it'll impact city taxes and the availability of our new construction values to be able to help service levels, to maintain the service levels we currently have, and then for the anticipated growth in the years to come. So we're watching that pretty closely. There's been several amendments to it as it's moved forward, but it's still kind of arbitrary, their budget caps and how it'll impact Nampa. Currently, we're seeing it could impact us at about $17 million over the next 8 years, which is pretty drastic. So at this point, we've kind of, as a council, decided to pause and move forward slowly with especially new housing developments as we move forward, kind of following the pattern that Meridian, their announcement, they made a similar announcement as well. So we're going to watch and see what happens, but that was the main takeaway. So with that, that's really all I have to say or tell you this evening. So unless you have any questions, I'll sign off and wish you well.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good evening.
Okay. Our first business item, our only business item, the Transportation Master Plan update. Oh, well, it's not on my agenda, so. But Rodney? Oh, there we go.
process here in this meeting. And so Karen was great enough to put this together. She spent a lot of time on it and working through this, and I think this is a great document for you to have. At the back of this, the very end paper is that compatibility discussion that we had with council to kind of guide you about that decision. Whenever something comes before you and you're considering, is it compatible, or how can we make this compatible? That document is at the very end of this packet. But I would like to just go through the packet pretty briefly. You've got this as a reference material for you. But we'll start out with just that front page. Sorry. And for the most part, I've identified which section of this we're on based on the number and the letter and the number that's listed on in your packet. Okay, so the first one is evidence and ex parte communications and conflicts of interest. So the staff report under A, or evidence, the staff report and any other documentation, including written, agency, and public correspondence, is kept as public record. So that's just for your knowledge. Anything a member of the public shows to the commission also needs to be kept, or a copy kept for the public record. I've seen you do that before. If somebody comes before you and they say, I've got this document I want to hand out to each of you, I need to get that, or somebody in our staff needs to get that document to put into the file
Rodney?
as evidence. Yes.
We've just been given to the secretary to do that.
And that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, letter B, ex parte communications. So I'll just read through this. This is really important. So we'll read through it and kind of discuss it. All material contacts received by public officials outside of the public hearing shall be disclosed prior to the commencement of the public hearing. And then it defines material contacts. Material contacts shall be defined as those contacts received outside the public hearing process that expectedly will have a significant effect on the opinion of a public official on a given issue. So if you have contact with someone and it's going to influence your decision, you need to be aware of that. That's ex parte communication. If there is a question of conflict of interest, which could be the case, as defined by Idaho Code for council member or commissioner, it shall be disclosed prior to the commencement of the hearing. So right before you begin that next hearing, before you open it up for testimony from the applicant, you should reveal that you may have a conflict of interest, or reveal if there's material contact. You need to just disclose that and say what it is. Here's what happened. Here's what they told me. Maybe it won't influence your decision at all. So you just need to state that at that point. So conflict of interest defined by state code says when the member or employee or his employer, business partner, business associate, or any person related to him by affinity or consanguinity within the second degree as an economic interest in the procedure or action. If so, you need to recuse yourself, but you may testify as a citizen. So again, it's a benefit. You're going to want to consider, is this a benefit to me or to some member of my family? Is it a financial benefit, or will it influence my decision? If not, then you disclose it and you move on. I think this kind of follows that same thing. Not only should ex parte communication be disclosed before the public hearing begins, but it should also be avoided in the first place when an application is filed. So if there's any kind of application filed with the city, you need to find that out. First thing, when somebody starts talking about a project, first thing you should say is, has there been any application for this project submitted to the city? If so, you should just say, we can't talk about this. We need to wait to talk about this. And then you disclose that. If they said anything at all, you disclose that in this meeting. And please stop me if there's any questions on any of this. Okay, so the next is just the hearing procedure, how we go about this. And this should be pretty explanatory, self-explanatory. You've seen it done here lots of times, but there may be a little tweaks here and there that we've done that kind of go against what the code recommends. So we start by calling to order, and typically we like to see the chair explain the procedures and rules to the public. Here's how we do this process for public hearings. And Peggy does a great job of that, just stating you will get this much time, the applicant will present. So let's actually go through that. The applicant gets the first say, they get 7 minutes. The staff is given unlimited time to present all the facts. The persons from the audience get 3 minutes. The applicant then can get a rebuttal or concluding comments. Now, this is important because they have 5 minutes to do it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in response to a question that was brought up. They should be able to give any kind of last comments, and they're allotted 5 minutes. Now, just keep in mind, in our code, it says the commission, actually the chair of the commission may outline these timeframes. So if there's extensions of timeframes, that's up to the chair to allow that. If you wanted to allow only 5 minutes, you could. If you wanted to allow 10, you could, but you just need to state that at the very beginning. So the next part of this is on the appeal. Similar process, but a little bit unique because there's an appellant and an appellee. And so the appellant would first get the 7 minutes. And you may get an appeal from design review. Design review, you'd be able to have an appeal. If it comes to you for appeal, you get the applicant or the appellant, the city staff comments, and then the appellee gets 7 minutes. Then the persons from the audience get 3 minutes. The appellant gets their concluding comments for 5 minutes. The appellee's concluding comments are 5 minutes. So that's generally how it goes. You may choose differently, though. All right, hearing protocol. Applicant presents their case, and it's okay to ask questions of them, but you should wait. The code says you should wait till after they're done because they've got 3 minutes. So you start that count, you go the 3 minutes, you wait for them to be done, and then for the applicant, it's 7. They have 7 minutes. You get done, then you can ask the questions, and that can go on as long as you keep asking questions and they keep giving answers, but it should only be limited to the questions and answers that they are giving to the questions you ask them. And so they shouldn't be able to go off and go on a tangent and talk about all kinds of other things. They should answer the questions. And I'm not going to go over everything here, but you can see it. You have the same ability to ask questions. Staff, you can ask anytime, right? You can interrupt me at any point or any of the staff, and you can ask them at any time, whether the public hearings is closed or not. That should be available to you. So I'm going to keep going. You don't need to go over too much details here. Number 4, continuance or recess. You may recess the hearing to another time that same meeting. So the chair may suggest, well, we don't have everybody here that needs to speak, but the person is coming. So we're going to move. I move to, and the chair wouldn't say that. One of the rest of the commission would say this. I move to recess this to the end of the meeting, right? The last item.
Allow the applicant appearance or something like that.
Yeah, until the person's there, that you could hear all the information. You could choose to do that. You could also continue to another date. If you continue to another date, you just have to say this specific date. Right? And then we don't have to re-advertise that because the public hearing is still open. You don't close the public hearing. All right, and then number 5 is compliance required. Rules must be followed to speak. If somebody starts not following any of these rules, they don't get to speak. Right? They don't. You can choose to say, I'm sorry, you have not followed the rules, you can no longer speak. And again, this is just for order, is trying to provide consistency and fairness to everyone who speaks. Okay, so other hearing conduct rules. Public officials shall not bring up the pros and cons of the subject prior to all testimony and evidence being submitted. So this, I'd strongly encourage you to think about this one. This one, you need to hear all the facts before you make any decision. Right? So you shouldn't be hearing one person and then say, well, I just don't think this makes sense. Right? You should wait until everybody has presented all the facts before you do that. The record must be transcribable. You have it on record. We always do. The audience should be allowed for full 3 minutes before interruption. We talked about that. Commissioner staff, if recognized, may ask the speaker questions. So after their 3 minutes or their 7 minutes or 5 minutes, you could, I could ask chairperson, can I ask a question? And then I could direct that to the applicant or the speaker. But you can direct those questions to them. Okay, so voting. Potential motion on PowerPoint and in staff report. We haven't quite made the transition yet. We've got it for city council, but we've made some significant changes that I'm going to show you in a minute on how to present potential motions. This is your decision. It's not staff's, so we don't want to direct you one way or another. And so I'll show you how we've done that. But we've already done that for our upcoming city council meetings. But in your staff reports tonight, they were done beforehand, before we made all these changes. So there's elements of it, but not completely done yet. So then the chair repeats who motioned and who seconded the motion. That's for Karen's purposes, right? Sometimes it's hard to hear who says, I move and I second. So it would be great if the chair could repeat that, who said that. All those in favor, aye. All those opposed, nay. Or you can do a roll call vote. If it's unclear how many said nay and how many said aye, you could just go down the row. Hearing review process, conclusions of law and findings. So I just want to make this clear, and we're going to do more and more training on this, but a conclusion of law is what is stated either in Idaho code or city code for the criteria for making a decision. That's the conclusions of law. You have to back up your conclusions of law with findings. And that could be just statements you make during deliberation. But it also, if you decide to deny something, you really should say, I move we deny this based on this conclusion of law, this number, right? It has to be tied back to the conclusion of law. And then because, and state those specific findings, right? Because it was, they're going to have too loud of noises next to this residential area or whatever that is. And that goes into the recorded minutes. And it also goes in the action letters from staff to the applicant. After the decision, the chair may also, and you do this, may also state the process for appeal. And you could even just say, contact planning and zoning for the appeal. There's a 15-day appeal period, and they just direct them to us. I'm going to move through this really quick now. We just have a couple of displays here. You've seen this one before. You have some authorities to approve and other authorities to recommend. And that's what this document is the blue 2 arrows are recommending authority. You would recommend that on to city council. The check mark, the red check mark is approval or denial authority. And then the rotating arrows are the appeal authority. And some of these are a little mixed. So for instance, a CUP, actually you have authority unless it's a storage unit CUP, or if it's tied to an annexation or rezone. And if it's tied, if they can't come both together, they should both go on to city council. Okay, so again, I'm not going to cover these. These are all listed in your packet, just all kinds of different motions that you could use. And we'll try to recommend some different approaches on motions in the staff reports and in your PowerPoint presentations that we give. So here's an example of what we're going to be doing from now on. We're going to give you a potential approval motion and a potential denial motion, and then you can always table it, or you can always, if we don't close public hearing, you can always continue it if you need more information. To table something, though, is to close the public hearing, and then we don't want to make a decision yet. Staff, you go find out this information, bring it back. It's not a public hearing, it's a business item because we've already closed the public hearing. And on that date that you identify, we bring back the information and you make your decision. It's a business item. People who, like last 2 weeks ago, someone showed up to the meeting and it was that exact situation. You had tabled your decision. They could not speak because it wasn't a public hearing. The public hearing had been closed.
Okay. Anyway, though.
Yeah, they did. So on the right are going to be your conclusions of law. These are the code that states why or the criteria for how you need to make your decision. There's annexation, you can see that there, or there's zoning. And now this next slide is for conditional use permits. And here are the conclusions of law right out of our code. Right? You'd have to, and if you denied that, you'd say, we move that we deny it based on the fact that it doesn't comply with number 2. And the location design and site planning of the proposed development will provide an inconvenient living situation, or whatever your reasoning is. And then you go into your details of because it doesn't allow enough space, or it's too loud, or whatever that is. Okay. All right. And then just to close up, no conclusions of law are required for development agreements, except for the associated annexation, zoning, or rezone conclusions of law. This is just an agreement between the city and the other party. If one party does not agree, they don't annex or rezone, and the DA is not approved. And I think that's it, except for the compatibility vision. Any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yeah.
One, I was going to ask Randy before he jumped off real quick, but the decisions for new zoning, as far as Senate Bill 1108 is concerned, does that have to do with any new, or does that affect those that might already be in the pipeline?
You mean at your workshop, your decision?
No, he said they were slowing down a little bit, kind of taking Meridian's lead. Does that not include those projects that are already in the pipeline?
I, Madam Chair and Commissioner.
If you wouldn't mind speaking for Commissioner Councilman Haverfield.
Yeah, I actually don't know. That's the first I've heard that. So I don't know. All I know is that the smaller annexations that we've been looking at have continued to go forward. Anything less than 5 acres or so, they've had no concerns whatsoever about.
Wouldn't it take effect on the day the law was passed? Can they backdate something like that? That would be a Pandora's box if they backdated it. It had to be on the day that they approved the legislation, and then the governor signs it.
Councilman Haverfield's comment was that they were just kind of slowing down. They weren't denying anything. They were just kind of slowing down
But that's
a little bit.
a different issue. I mean,
That's what I was.
trying to get the things before they get to this, trying to say, hey, this is what we're going to do if you do this.
Yeah, they can't backdate a decision that's already been made.
Right.
And so, the decision right now, at least what I've heard from Mayor Kling, is that they are going to consider annexations on a case-by-case basis and say, can we delay this until another date? Because they want to give time to make a decision for the Senate and the House to make a decision about that bill. So at that point, when they make that decision, then they'll come back, City Council will make a final decision on that project.
Ronnie, there's also legal questions as to whether it's a valid thing that they could do. So
Yeah.
they have to get an attorney to also review it. So I think that's why they want to delay it, because they don't want things to progress forward if it's going to be reviewed again.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did have one other quick question. I know we're hitting up on the 7 o'clock hour, but the communication part. So members of the commission, as far as if there might be some communication between a commissioner and a member of your staff, shouldn't that be part of the public record also, and therefore refrain from, if it has to do with something that might be, or that is coming up on the agenda?
So actually, that is not ex parte communications, because we are here to assist you in whatever questions you have. I have city council members sometimes give me a call and talk to me about that project, and we walk through it and all the details that I can give, but my communication is not intended to sway them one way or another. I only provide the facts and what the code says. And you could do that at any time for any project. Yeah.
Would that also pertain to communication between commissioners outside of a?
Yeah, if it's about a project, you definitely need to reveal that.
I want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay? And Madam Chair, I would just suggest that Jeff go, he's only going to go for 5 minutes, he said.
That's fine.
So,
Are you talking about me?
Oh, get out of here, Jeff.
The other Jeff.
Thank you, Rodney. All right, transportation master plan update. Time, 5 minutes, right?
5 minutes. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time. Yeah, Jeff Barnes, I work for the Public Works Department and in the transportation side of things. So the airport, fleet, streets, and transportation planning. And that's what I want to kind of get your input on any suggestions you'd have tonight. We're trying to get the word out. So an overview. So the Transportation Master Plan provided high-level recommendations on what type of intersection to put at these locations around the city. And so it's either a roundabout or a signal. So we have looked at now 14 that we have underway, and we've kind of had some more time to do some additional engineering. And so at that point, out of these 14, so 6 of them are changed from the master plan, then we're going to add 3. So out of the 14, we just want to come to the commission, also to the council, and get some feedback on those designs. This is, and you have this in your packet, a location of the intersections, and you can see we have many roundabouts, and we have also signals planned. Just to give you an idea of some of the pros and cons, signals, for instance, are very good in high traffic situations. An extreme situation is when Amazon moves into town and they have a roundabout. Well, they maxed out the capacity of that roundabout. That is very extreme to have that much volume coming out of one facility. So you'll see that for a signal, it is better and manageable with the higher volumes. Cycle gaps, you'll notice you have green, red. You can fit people into flows of traffic between these gaps. They're a little bit easier to navigate on and off of streets. And the technology, we can time corridors, we can time signals. The signals, they sense when a car is coming, and if there's only you sitting at an intersection, they'll trigger that green light, and then you can go. So that's some of the pros. The cons is there's 90% more fatality and serious injury accidents. Just to give you an example, when they took out the roundabout at Kings and, at Star and Franklin, if you went out there during the roundabout days, pretty slow progression of traffic, and people had to slow down when they came through. And I was standing out there when they put the signal in the first week, and somebody blew through it maybe 40 miles an hour and flew through the intersection. So you don't really see that in a roundabout. You'll see that in a signal. And those T-bones and those type of accidents lead to fatalities or serious injuries. There's 10 to 14% more pedestrian accidents than in roundabouts, and the life cycle costs, of course, are higher because we have to exchange out all the equipment. With the roundabout, they have these entry angles that slow people down. There's 30 to 50% more capacity because there's so much action in the roundabout. Drivers' eyes stay on the road, and then there's less noise pollution and half the vehicle pedestrian conflicts, and then, of course, the reduction by 90% of the fatalities and the serious injuries. The cons are sometimes with that continuous flow, it's hard for traffic to enter out. And you'll see that with neighborhoods where they have entry roads close to the roundabouts. They're starting to complain about that. Unbalanced traffic flow in one direction. So if you let out of a school and it comes from one direction, the rest of the directions have a hard time coming in. There's no emergency preemption, but all the firefighters and the police love the roundabouts, by the way. So that's really a con, but it's not a complaint from the police department. And they're not super efficient for high traffic locations. I think I mentioned that. So I have a number of in fact, I have blow-ups of every one of these intersections. In light of the 5 minutes, I could inundate you with roundabout designs and traffic designs, but I just want to hear from you at this point. If there's a specific intersection you want to look at, well, I'm here. I will show that to you. Stand for questions.
This really isn't very fair. I mean, you're asking us to make a spot-on decision instead of having a chance to look at these things and evaluate it, and maybe you can go out and look at some of these things. Can't we do this another date, or do you have to have it before the city council meeting?
Well, we're having a public hearing at the city council meeting that's scheduled already. So, I mean, we'll receive input up to that point, certainly.
So if we have some input, we could definitely email you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh.
up to that point. Yep. This
All
is pretty informal tonight. I'm just, if you want to email me, a phone call, I'll follow up.
Do you have a picture of the Happy Valley and Victory roundabout that's going in?
Only dirt.
'Cause that looks
Happy
really,
Valley and Victory, I do not have, that's not on here. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that one's.
That one looks really weird, how it seems like it's
Oh,
going. Is it going
yeah.
south of the intersection?
Yeah.
It is. So
It's gonna
that
go down by that little creek in the
Okay.
back.
they had to move the signal out of the runway protection
Yeah.
zone,
Yeah.
so they
That's
dove
what I
it down to
figured
the
that
south.
much, but it looked like it was going through somebody's yard. That's why I was wondering.
It's the cow.
And another quick question with Happy Valley is, I know is county but that is designated as a minor arterial. At what point does a road become a major arterial? Because Happy Valley seems almost like an expressway sometimes.
Madam Chair and Commissioner, so principal arterials are regional in their capacity, so they'll, when it goes to a minor or secondary arterial, you have some of that regional connectivity, but it's not as much. So it is a determination, if you look at the FHWA, there's not like a volume of traffic that triggers that. It's an engineering judgment.
I see.
So when we look at Encompass, the regional planning organization looks at all the roads, that's when we make that evaluation. But if I would say if that's a concern, send me an email and we can certainly look at it. Because we update that map annually, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for your time. And like I said, yeah, if you have any input, please let me know.
Is your phone number on any of these pages by any chance?
What was that?
Is your phone number on any of these pages?
No, I'll give you
That was a smart move not to
yeah.
put it in there, though.
208
208?
965 0092.
Thank you.
Everybody else get that?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay. Okay, we are past 7 o'clock, so we will go to public hearing items. Our first action item is the final plat approval for Roosevelt Village.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is for all three. You've got a couple different things there. Subdivision final plat approval for Roosevelt Village, and then the subdivision preliminary plat and final plat approval for Roosevelt Village number 2.
2, correct.
We're going to present those all together.
Awesome. Is the applicant here? Okay.
You were going to give your presentation first.
She does it second. You get to go first.
All right. My name is Blake Wolf. I live at 843 West Horizon Way here in Nampa. Yeah, I didn't have a lot to say because I thought she was going to present first, but we're just actually wrapping up the vertical construction on this project. This zoning allows both horizontal and vertical to kind of coexist like an apartment project, and then you plat around what is finished at the time. As of now, all 22 structures are up, but they're not all done. There's about 10 of them that are almost done. They will be by the end of the month. It's all public utilities, city services, curb, sidewalk, gutter, storm drain. It's got a HOA, common areas. We're just about done with the street landscaping. I'm here more for questions if you have any from what you've reviewed of the staff report. I'm aware of all the conditions and I'm okay with them.
Okay. We may have some questions for you after we hear from Christy.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. As stated previously, there are 3 actions requested from you tonight. I'm going to present all 3 of them together, but at the end, you'll need to make 3 separate decisions. So the first recommendation of approval to City Council for final plat of the Roosevelt Village subdivision. The second item is approval of the Roosevelt Village Number 2 preliminary plat. And the third is a recommendation of approval to City Council of the final plat for Roosevelt Village subdivision number 2. So the property is located at 1910 West Roosevelt Avenue. You've all seen this previously with the development agreement modification. It is zoned RP. It is completely surrounded by RS6 zoned properties. They're all developed out as single-family subdivisions on the northeast and west, and Roosevelt Elementary School is on the south. So in September of 2008, this was annexed and zoned to RP with a development agreement. In October of 2009, the development agreement was modified for a senior living development. In July of 2020, a development agreement modification was approved for this residential duplex subdivision. And then in October 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the preliminary plat for Roosevelt Village subdivision. So first off, the Roosevelt Village final plat is proposed for 11 duplex lots, which is a total of 22 dwelling units on 2.99 acres with 4 common lots, and is the same as the approved preliminary plat. The findings of fact in this case are that it is located within the city limits and is zoned RP. It conforms to the approved preliminary plat layout, and it conforms to the applicable subdivision and zoning standards for Nampa. So should you choose to recommend approval of this final plat, staff would recommend applying the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report and any others that you wish to impose this evening. So moving on to the second item is the preliminary plat for Roosevelt Village subdivision number 2. This is just east of the previous request. It proposes 11 duplex lots for a total of 22 dwelling units on 2.67 acres with 3 common lots for 4.12 units per gross acre. As far as staff analysis on the plat, the RP zone is a fairly simplified zone for platting. So you have minimum lot areas is 6,000 square feet for the first 2 units of every structure. So there's 2 units in each of these structures. The smallest size master lot in this subdivision is 6,000 square feet. Therefore, it meets code. There is a lot width minimum in the RP zone of 50 feet. The smallest lot width shown on the preliminary plat is 51.65. So it meets code in that respect as well. We did receive some comments from the GIS department to request, to change the name. I believe the street sign's already up out there as Drifter Loop, so it just needs to be changed on the plat. Fire had their standard construction requirements. Building department quoted the Title IV drain requirements and then also some drainage concerns that were listed in your staff report. Those were provided for the applicant to be aware of. And then, of course, engineering had their standard comments and conditions. So that was the preliminary plat. This is the final plat of that same development. This development, again, proposes 11 duplex lots for a total of 22 dwelling units on 2.67 acres with 3 common lots. The findings in this case are that it is located within the city limits and zoned RP. It conforms to what has been proposed on the preliminary plat layout, and it conforms to the applicable subdivision and zoning standards for Nampa. Should you choose to approve the preliminary plat and then move on to recommend approval of the final plat, staff would recommend applying the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report and any others you wish to impose tonight. So here is your first potential motion for the Roosevelt Village final plat.
Any questions for Christie?
I have a question. Christie, Roosevelt to the west of Stanley Creek is wider than it is adjacent to this subdivision. Is this going to be widened? I didn't see anything saying it was going to be widened.
That would be an engineering question.
Well, I thought you would refer to him.
Commissioners, Commissioner Kehoe, the Roosevelt Street frontage, per our new standards, is required to put in sidewalk, but they are not required to do the full pavement and curb gutter sidewalk improvements because of the classification of Roosevelt Street.
Even that area down along the canal where there's no housing or anything, still not going to be any wider.
They,
On 2, this is 1, that's what I was referring to, but on section 2, there is no
Can you go
housing
back
or
to their
anything there.
parcel?
But
So their frontage stops there at the east, and
Right.
so they have no frontage beyond where the canal actually butts up against Roosevelt.
makes sense.
So, yes.
Thank you. Do we have a sign-up sheet in the back for this?
So this is the final plat, so this is not a public hearing necessarily. The preliminary plat portion will be,
Okay.
although I guess we could take,
I mean, it's a public hearing item, so I'm just,
we don't have anyone signed up to speak for any of it.
okay.
So if you'd like to ask the applicant back before you choose to make a decision, you're welcome to do that.
do you guys have any questions for the applicant? Or I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Was that you, Tom? No. Brett made the motion and Steve seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Can you put the first motion back up there, Christie, please?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion for the first one here, that we recommend to City Council approval of the final plat for Roosevelt Village subdivision at 86 South Drifter Loop, which is the new name of that street, for 11 duplex lots for a total of 22 dwelling units and 4 common lots on 3.17 acres, with all conditions of staff and the conclusions of law. The applicant.
I'll second.
Okay, it was motioned by Jeff, seconded by Brett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, first one down.
I will then make a motion on the second one of the preliminary plat of Roosevelt Village subdivision number 2, that we approve that preliminary plat at 26 South Drifter Loop for 11 duplex lots for a total of 22 dwelling units and 2 common lots on 2.49 acres, with all conditions of staff and conclusions of law.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Adam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And I'll finish up here with the third one, that we recommend to City Council approval for the final plat of Roosevelt Village subdivision number 2 at 26 South Drifter Loop for 11 duplex lots for a total of 22 dwelling units and 2 common lots on 2.49 acres, with all conditions of staff and conclusions of law.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Michelle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public hearing number 2, conditional use permit for home occupation firearm sales business. Do we have the applicant here? Come on up, give us your name and address for the record and tell us what you want to do.
Yes, hi. Good evening. My name is Miodrag Djordjevic. I go by Misha. I live at 13334 South Stockbridge Way. We recently moved up here from California. My wife Denise and I have ran this type of business for the last 10 years in California with 0 issues. We cater to law enforcement and first responders. And we do a lot of online sales as well. So if I could answer any other questions, I'd be happy to.
We'll probably have you come back up after we hear from
Okay.
staff.
Okay. And that's about it that's how we operate. So, and we also run a very discreet, I think a lot of people in the neighborhood were thinking that we were going to be like an actual store where people are going to be coming. When we conduct business, besides maybe a police car or 2 here or there, there's not going to be any, no one would be impacted at all. No one would know that we were even conducting business. So we're very discreet about that.
I do have a question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
You said you sell to law enforcement?
Over about 70 to 80% of our business has been law enforcement. and
How does
first
that
responders.
happen? Because typically law enforcement are contracted, they contract with particular
Yep.
firearms
We
dealers.
sell
and-
to the individual officers, yes. And
As a private citizen then, not as a law enforcement officer.
correct, we've sold duty weapons too, yes. Yeah, a lot of agencies will allow their officers to buy their own duty weapons. So yeah, we've done that a lot.
Okay.
So
And the sell then, you sell through the internet, via the internet, and then also face-to-face? They come to your home, buy the gun from your...
correct, we're appointment only. We don't have an open door policy, and we're very selective on who we deal with. So yeah, like I said, we've been doing it for 10 years with 0 issues. So
Okay. Do you know if Nampa PD has that policy in place where their officers, or have you even got to that point?
I
yet
haven't
where
got to that point
Okay.
yet. No, but I do know that we moved the business up here, and we have a lot of guns that we want to sell. And even if this was denied to us, I would not be able to even sell my guns online legally. You can't sell more than 6 guns in a calendar year without having this in place here. So we came up here with about 200 guns that in inventory. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. I guess Parker's got this one.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested from you tonight is the approval or denial of the conditional use permit for a home occupation firearm sales business in an RS 8.5 zone for Miodrag and Denise Georgievich of OMG Tactical Armory. The original legal notice stated the property was in an RS6 zone, but it's actually an RS 8.5, and it's been corrected in this presentation. The property is located inside city limits and is zoned RS 8.5. It is designated as medium-density residential in the future land use map. The lot is 0.24 acres. It is surrounded by RS 8.5 zoned single-family homes. All public utilities and services are available to the property. The access to the property is from Roosevelt Avenue to the north. So I'll go through the applicable regulations for this application. 10110 is our home occupation code, and it states, is the intent of the home occupation ordinance that full-scale commercial or professional type operations that would change the appearance or condition of a residence or be detrimental to neighborhood character and would be ordinarily be conducted in a commercial or industrial district, continue to be conducted in such district and not at or from residential properties. Basically, the goal of the home occupation code is to prevent our residential areas from becoming commercialized while also allowing small businesses to operate without those additional costs. It also states in A, certain types of home occupations require special consideration and approval because of the nature of the use and its potential incompatibility with residential living, such as this application. There are certain conditions that home occupations have to operate under by city code. And those are signs can, no sign is issued as used other than a nameplate of not over 2 square feet in area and non-illuminated. The home occupation area cannot exceed 25% of the home. There can be no outdoor display of goods, equipment, or materials. Only one commercial vehicle is allowed. No outside employees would be allowed. And as far as traffic, it is intended that vehicular or pedestrian traffic to or from a residential property operating a home occupation not be generated in volumes beyond that normal to the residential zoning district in which the home occupation is located. If additional parking for the home business is needed, then that parking shall be provided upon the property whereupon the home occupation is to be operated. Buildings shall retain residential appearance. Noise, vibration, glare, fumes, odors, or electrical interference detectable to create a nuisance to the normal senses of off the lot. The sales, infrequent residential or out-of-home sales may occur in residential areas, provided sales are conducted not more than 3 days at a time and no more frequently than once per calendar quarter. That last one is more in regards to garage sales, estate sales, moving sales, those types of things. So I'll go over the complaint procedures that we have in our code regarding home occupations. Let's see. So if the business operates outside of those requirements that I just listed, we have a procedure in place to address those issues. Complaints regarding signs, space, storage, and display of goods will be handled by the planning department. Complaints regarding employment, traffic appearance, nuisances, or sales will be dealt by the commission as follows. The commission shall review home occupations upon receipt of 2 written complaints from 2 separate households within 300 feet of the boundary of the affected property. And those complaints need to set forth the nature of the objection. Such complaints shall be investigated by the city and the results reported to the commission at a public hearing. The public hearing procedure and notification process shall be the same as outlined for conditional use permits. It would then be the commission to decide on the basis of these standards being generation of excessive traffic, monopoly of the street parking, frequent deliveries or pickups by motor freight trucks, noise in excess of that created by normal residential use, smoke, fumes, or odors in excess of those created by normal residential use, and other offensive activities not in harmony with the residential neighborhood. So you can either approve it to continue, require it to be terminated, or impose additional restrictions at that hearing. In regard to conditional use permits, 1025-1 states the purpose of review shall be to determine that the characteristics of any such use shall not be unreasonable or incompatible with the types of uses permitted in surrounding areas, or for stipulating such conditions as may be reasonable, so that the basic purposes of the chapter shall be served. Nothing construed herein shall be deemed to require the commission to grant a CUP. So the basis of your decision of the conditional use permit should use the following conclusions of law. Basically, that it be compatible with and not adversely affect the livability or appropriate development of abutting properties. That it provide a convenient and functional living, working, shopping, or civic environment that will be as attractive as the nature of the use and its location. That it will enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area and will provide an essential service to the community. So I'll go through the agency correspondence first. Building department required that it be compliant with Title IV. Nampa Fire Department stated that they provide quantities of all ammunition, black and/or smokeless powders, and primers that will be on the site at any one time. Code enforcement had no violations. Nampa School District stated Nampa School District has the following comments in this conditional use application. Since the location is less than 1.5 miles by road from both Lone Star Middle School and Franklin D. Roosevelt Elementary, we want to make sure that OMG Tactical Armory has taken appropriate measures to add extra security to protect access to firearms and ammunition in the home. We believe items like proper secure storage of ammunition and firearms are required for this type of home business. We also believe a good process to make sure firearms are not left unsecured and is a required part of the planning for this type of business. We received no correspondence from the police department. The animal control visited the property. The owner was given a warning for dogs in the front yard, but no citations were issued at that time. We received multiple letters from neighbors for this application. They were all sent to you before tonight. And I've made a summary of those comments. The Rockwell Village is a community of mostly retired individuals and families. The business will bring in a lot of traffic to the rear of the subdivision with only one entrance. The owner has had a history of disregard for the HOA and CC&Rs. The business would be located next to a common lot that is used by many in the subdivision and only has a wrought iron fence. The business should utilize one of the many commercial spaces available in the city. There are many gun and ammo stores in Nampa, and one should not be located in a residential area. The owner has a history of violation with animal control regarding the dogs that continue to violate laws. The owner has been aggressive with those on the HOA board. Website reviews for the business notate that the business sets appointments for in-person sales and the customers frequent the home. How can a small home occupation business do proper background checks on patrons? There are a number of negative reviews online for the business. There is a concern with the storage of large amounts of ammo in the home not designed for such use. There is a concern with the storage of weapons that could be prone to theft. The home occupation is not allowed by the HOA. brings in customers that would rather not buy in commercial area that might have something to hide. The home occupation will decrease property values. The home occupation compromises the residential feel of the neighborhood. We also received comments in favor and neutral. They spoke to the owner about the owner of the business, about how the business will operate, and didn't have any concerns. And they stated the HOA has stepped outside of their bounds by issuing a statement against the applicant that may have influenced the opinion of property owners. The owners need to provide information regarding how the business will operate and not opposed if the business is completely online with no traffic to the home. If the commission chooses to approve the permit, here are a list of potential conditions which are listed in the staff report, and those can be added to or changed upon your consideration. Here are potential motions for you with the conclusions of law that we went over to use in your decision. And I will stand for any questions.
Parker, I have a question for you, this is Steve.
Yeah.
One of the comments from one of the letters that we got of opposition says there are many gun and ammo stores in Nampa and one should not be located in a residential area. And you looked up for me today that we have, besides this one, we have 10 other similar businesses operating out of people's homes under conditional use permits. And then under conditional use permit, if you violate any of those sections, we could rescind the CUP. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Have we done any of that in Nampa, even business have been in business for more than 2 years?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Parker?
Yeah, Parker, will you go back one slide? That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, my public hearing list is very long. I don't have anybody that has indicated they want to speak. Is there anybody present that would like to speak for the proposal? Okay, come on up, give us your name and address for the record. While she's coming up here, I'm going to kind of explain. We will give you 3 minutes to say your piece, and then that's all you get. And if you want to testify and you agree with the person that's already spoke, you can come up and give your name and address for the record and say you agree with that and don't have to go through it all over again if you like. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for allowing me to speak at this hearing. My name is Christina Hensley. I live at 13333 South Stockbridge Way in Nampa. My husband and I live directly across the street from Misha and Denise Georgievich, who are here for the conditional use permit. On February 28, 2021 at 1:06 p.m., the Rockwell Village HOA Board of Directors emailed homeowners in Rockwell Village regarding the notice of public hearing sign in the Georgievich's front yard. The first 2 paragraphs of the letter spoke to the name of their business and how neighbors within 300 feet of their residence were notified by the Planning Commission. In the 3rd paragraph, the letter states, quote, "The Rockwell Village HOA Board needs to make it clear that having a business in one's home is not prohibited by the CCNRs as long as there is no signage. Therefore, this is not an issue for the board to address with these neighbors," end quote. In the 4th paragraph, it states, quote, "For your information, each one of the board members personally are opposed to the granting of this permit and have already submitted our letters to the Planning and Zoning Department," end quote. When providing information under the umbrella of the Rockwell Village HOA Board of Directors, board members have a responsibility to remain neutral and unbiased. They should not give their personal opinions as any official statement they provide can influence the input or decision of fellow homeowners. While the board did not give a reason for personally opposing the permit, I feel it is in retaliation for the Georgievich's refusal to move an enclosed cargo trailer that was parked in their own driveway. It was parked up against their garage door and was not blocking the roadway or sidewalk. This cargo trailer was used multiple times, moving their personal items from California to Nampa. At the time, they were told to move the cargo trailer to a paid storage facility. They already had plans to return the trailer to California within a time frame of 2 weeks. The HOA secretary/treasurer, Ruth Ann Humphrey, was notified of this, but demanded that they remove the trailer immediately, choosing not to give them a grace period, knowing that they were going to be moving it. On February 28th, after reading the board's letter that was emailed to all of the homeowners, myself and another neighbor posted a comment on the Rockwell Village neighborhood Facebook page that we supported Misha and Denise in the right to conduct a business from the residents. I further noted that the HOA board should not give their personal opinions on any official statement as this might prejudice the input and decision of fellow homemakers. We also urged our fellow neighbors to speak to Misha and Denise if they had any questions or concerns and to form their own opinions. Both of our comments were censored and removed from the Facebook page by the HOA secretary/treasurer within 1 hour of my posting. To my knowledge, myself and the other neighbor are the only homeowners who personally spoke with Misha and Denise. My husband and I support Misha and Denise in their request for a conditional use permit. They are responsible business owners and have conducted this business for many years with no safety issues or concerns. I ask the commission to please consider this information when making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? You're the applicant. You guys will get a chance to talk at the end. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for the proposal? Okay, anybody that is neutral or undecided? Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. Pardon me. Good evening. My name is Patrick Benoit. I live at 13408 South Deacon Avenue, Nampa, which is in the Rockwell Village. I have basically 2 questions. I've gone 3 times now, knocked on their door, and have heard people moving around, but no one ever answers the door. My questions are basically 2. What fire suppression systems is he putting in? And what effect is this going to have on our property values? I contacted my insurance agent, and he says unless they put in fire suppression, everybody in the neighborhood can be looking forward to a 5 to 10% increase in insurance. I don't feel that's appropriate. The only way we were notified, living on the far side of the property from them, that this was even happening, because we have no business, going around to that section of the subdivision, was when we were notified via the Facebook group for our residents. And basically, and if those questions are answered and dealt with, if he puts proper fire suppression in, how is it going to affect our property values? My insurance agent, or my property manager, we have some rentals here in the area, tells me that if we go to sell our home, we would be required to disclose the fact that this business is operating in our neighborhood. And I feel that probably would affect sale prices too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
They would have to disclose they would have to disclose, if you're selling your home, you'd have to disclose the business because it sells firearms?
Because it's selling firearms.
And that's a requirement in real estate
That
law?
would be required by Idaho law, according to my real estate agent.
Tom is saying no.
Nope.
I've never heard of it either.
No, on the property disclosures, there's nothing on there that would make you stipulate. He wouldn't even have to if he was to sell the property because he's moving his business. So it's not something you'd have to disclose to your neighbors.
Madam Chair, as a retired insurance agent and yourself as a current insurance agent, I have never heard that another company could charge you for what somebody else does in their
Yeah.
business or their home. So that's,
His
Totally-
statement,
totally
his
false
statement
statement.
was that, you know,
Somebody
if
gave
he,
you bad
if he is storing large quantities of ammunition and black powder and such, that, okay. My third
make up
question
your own
that comes.
laws if you want to, but there's no state law and there's no city code and there's no insurance code saying any such thing in Idaho.
My other question is he required to post hazardous materials, placards?
With the fire department, he might be, depends what the materials he has are.
We'll ask him
thank you.
when it's time. Anybody else neutral or undecided? Okay, those opposed that would like to speak publicly that have not submitted a letter already? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Ann Humphrey. I am the mentioned Secretary Treasurer of the HOA Board. I did not come here to speak on the board's behalf as the board has no official position on the matter. The RCCNRs do not disallow this kind of business in the neighborhood. I live at well, I couldn't even tell you my address right now. I live just across the street and down from the new neighbors. I could not possibly go into all that was said in 3-minute time. What I want to say is on behalf of the Rockwell neighborhood, you received feedback from well over 20 people. I do not have that kind of influence, nor does the board, to inspire over 20 individuals to write to you out of their hearts how they feel about this. They often come to the board for guidance and direction. This was in no way a vendetta to these neighbors. This was a response to trying to assist neighbors who wanted the board to do something, for us to tell them, the board cannot do this for you. You have to do it on your own. You have to have your own voice. We have done it for our own voices. We lead by example. But we did not try to ever tell anybody which way they should do it. We had other notifications of information, but it was neutral. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and this is not probably the place to air the dirty laundry for the HOA board in the neighborhood. We have a wonderful subdivision. So that's all I wanted to say about that. My only question I had is inventory and sales. I didn't bring the notes up, but it said limited inventory and occasional sales. I wanted to know if there was a way that you quantify those things, because that seems very subjective. 200 guns, is that limited inventory? Is that a lot of inventory? Has this individual given business records that indicate how much inventory they keep and what the volume of sales is? I think that's a concern of some neighbors, so I will ask those questions. And that's all. Thank you.
I do have a question for Ms.
Yes.
Humphrey.
Yes.
As in full disclosure here, as a happily resigned HOA president, I do want to ask you, do you know of any other member in that HOA that is operating a business out of their home?
No.
Whether it's through internet, sales, or anything like that
Are you talking on the board or neighbor?
in the neighborhood?
I'm not aware of anyone personally, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, the applicant would like to come back up and we'll give you guys a shot at answering some questions and clarifying some things.
Hi.
And you can take your mask off
Oh,
while you're up
thank
there
you. Thank you
so
so
that we
much.
can hear you.
Thank you so much. My name is Denise Georgievich, and I'm an FFL just like my husband. And I'm his right-hand man. I'm shipping and receiving. and I do a lot of running to FedEx. That is my job. And I do the books as well. And I love what I do. I'm very grateful that I'm an American and I'm able to do that. But there's a few things that I really need to address and about some of the complaints. About the dogs.
We don't care about the dogs.
Well, I did comply, and I mean, they weren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But we haven't really had a fair shake at all from this association. We came up here with high hopes. Idaho, Grand Idaho, it's his dream, his passion. And we got here on January 20th. And on the 12th, it all started for us with the trailer. And it's just been one thing after the other. The dogs, the police, our shed. I mean, it's just one thing after the other with not even a chance to speak about our business. So when on the 25th, when you put up that sign, which is big and beautiful, and I'm so glad that everybody could see it, it shocked me quite, I think, wow, but it went up on the 25th about 2 o'clock and the first email I got, do you mind?
Well, we need you to kind of address the questions that they had for you.
Oh.
I mean, unless if you're going to make a point that's going to help the commissioners make a decision.
We never had a chance to even speak to anybody.
Okay.
Because that went up on the 25th, and the 20 minutes later, I got an email, please explain. And Misha was already in California bringing down the trailer, so he didn't even have a chance to speak. So I answered her, sure, I would like to. I really want to address this. I want to speak about it. It's transparent. This is what we do. I said, maybe during the HOA meeting, which was going to be on the 2nd of March, I said, maybe I can answer their questions. I would have questions myself.
Right.
Not knowing what this entails, I feel the empathy of them being however they're feeling. So she said, no, we couldn't speak about it at the meeting. Ruth Ann had said that we had an agenda and these are the things we're going to do. So then I get the next day, then I get 6:08, she sends me another email saying that this is what you do. I don't believe that you're going to just have an online business, and I don't approve of it. And then all of a sudden, the 26th, everything comes out. We don't even have a chance to speak to anybody. And my husband got home on the 28th, and then he had no chance to even get on the Facebook page. So I would like a fair shot. This is America. I deserve a fair shot.
Right.
We have done this forever. I'm sorry.
You're fine. But this is where you get to answer the questions so that we can get the facts out so that we can make a decision to see, what's going on. So one of the questions that came up was background checks.
Can I answer one?
Sure.
Can I rebuttal one thing? Ruth Ann said that the community goes to the board for questions. Let me be straight here. Within the first week of us moving into this house, we got here at 11:30 at night on the 19th of January. Within the first week of us being there, we had a dozen people knock on our door and blatantly ask us what our political affiliations were and what our religious beliefs are. Yet those people, which I was happy to oblige, those people could not come to our home and ask questions about my trailer, which is what started this whole thing, or what our business is about. None of them. Someone said they knocked on our door. I've been home nonstop. We don't work up here. We're trying to set up our business up here. Maybe we were gone out to eat or something, or it could have been our dogs inside the house. We don't not answer our door, never once. So anyways, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So background checks.
Background checks. Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
We do, it's different up here. So Idaho subscribes to the NICS system. That's the National Instant Criminal Check System. And since we've been up here, we got signed up with that. The FBI called us and got us all set up with that in anticipation where this will go through. And can I step back one thing? I researched 55 other dealers like me in the area. I don't know where someone came up with 10. So
That's just in the last 2 years.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, there
So
was
people can't just find you on the internet and come buy a gun?
We
You're
don't-
doing
We
the,
don't, no one
There's no
has done that in
traffic in
10
our
years.
okay.
So, like I said, none of our neighbors ever knew that we ran. Besides, we had a lot of police cars at our house.
They loved it.
And they all
loved it.
enjoyed that. So
Okay, where are you going to store the guns?
we have very large safes. We're also American Security safe dealers. So we have very, very large safes that if our house burnt down to the ground, everything is stored inside the safes, everything would be fine.
What about ammunition? Do you store a lot of ammunition or is it mainly guns?
No, it's mainly guns. I do have a lot of ammunition. I've been a competition shooter for 20 years, so.
But that's your personal, not the business.
Personal stuff, correct, yes,
And is that stored in a fireproof safe as well?
correct.
Okay. What number of visits do you anticipate to your home, like weekly or monthly?
Sometimes there'll be weeks without us seeing anyone, so it ebbs and flows. We
Average.
do a lot of, I think last year, without divulging too much, I think we did about $400,000 of internet sales where we drop ship a lot of stuff from our distributors to other dealers across it. Everything is done above board.
Right.
Background checks are done on 100% of the items that.
Well, to keep
we
your
release.
FFL,
Yeah,
you have to
absolutely.
abide by
This
the
is-
law,
It's
yeah.
such a scrutinized, I mean, we welcome the ATF come in, they give us audits.
Yeah.
Come on, tell me, you're gonna help me be a better business person. But just last year alone, we did over $12,000 in postage and delivery. This is
yeah.
mailing.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows you that, I mean, that what they're gonna see, the traffic that they might really see, which I was told and that they don't want traffic there. They don't want the FedEx trucks in there. They don't want anything in there. But I see FedEx trucks and Amazon trucks all day long going through the thing. And it's not that I'm a peeping out the window checking on my neighbors, because I'm not that gal. But there's people. I mean, this is a life. This is not a leisure village for the retired. This is a neighborhood with even young people too. It's not, I know they want to keep it quiet. We're quiet except for my dogs. They're gonna walk at the fence, but they're considered security too.
So do you guys have any kind of fire suppression system?
Oh, nope.
Not required by
It's not
FF?
required.
Okay. If it's kept in a fireproof safe?
Yeah.
Okay, were there any questions, you guys, that I didn't ask, that you guys heard?
Oh, please ask me one more question.
Or anything you guys want to ask?
You won't have any signage on the front of your house?
None.
Oh, no way.
No.
It's not a gun shop.
Yeah.
It's not a gun shop. He is a dealer. Dealers are way different than gun shops. And I know for a fact, yeah, we've been married a long time. And we have grandkids, and they're going to be coming. We never had any problem. I've held kids' Bible study for 7 years at my house, and all those parents never cared that they knew it was Misha, and we knew we were safe. Everything's locked up. We're FFLs. We have to account not only to the government, not only to our state, not only to all of the firearm things that goes on, but I'm accountable to God too. I don't want anybody in my neighborhood, in my house, or even anybody I do anything with that's going to bring harm to me nor my neighbors.
Do you guys have a security system?
Oh, we can't wait to get it.
Yes.
Okay.
We're
Yes, we
waiting. We're
do.
thinking, do we go back home to California? Are they going to give us our license? Because we can go back down there. We just transferred it up here.
Yes, we'll have everything in place.
Everything.
We're very safe and secure.
Yeah, everything.
yeah.
And we can even give you affidavits or from all the police departments that we cater to and how we do business. And a lot of the retired ones are here with us, and we got friends here.
You guys have any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, quickly, is this your only source of employment?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have one more. All right. Have you looked at any commercial locations as opposed to your home?
You can
I
answer
understand.
this one,
So
sweetheart.
right now, there is a complete shortage of guns and ammo and everything because of COVID and political, outcomes.
It would be a
So-
waste.
So it would be going to business, you've got things for a few weeks to sell, and then what do I do at that point? I've signed how long of a lease to do that? We've successfully done this for 10 years, so
We love it.
I would prefer not to,
I don't want that.
to go that route. Matter of fact, I'm not going to go that route, so yeah, we're just hoping that you guys will see fit to
Is-
give us a chance like California did.
Is the 200 guns abnormally high for inventory for you, or is that what you
No,
averagely?
No,
that's not
no, that's
pretty
that's-
average?
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
average, yeah.
Okay.
We ship, I'm ready to like put a lot of guns on Gunbroker, but I can't legally because right
We're
now
not
our
gonna break the law.
our license is in limbo until we get this in place. So I
Okay.
can't legally sell more than 6 guns in a calendar year without being out
And
of
that's how-
compliance with the ATF. And, no, actually at one point in time, I don't know if I should say this, if this is good or bad, but we've had up to like 700 plus guns in stock. So,
That's where the
you know,
postage comes in.
we do a lot of, we do a lot of shipping of
A lot of
guns.
shipping,
Yeah.
which was very great for us. I mean, it was great for the country. Everybody was out of it, but Misha had all the guns for everybody during, we shipped and shipped and shipped and shipped.
So in your conversation with planning and zoning staff, working up to the CUP, was there any conversation about what Ms. Humphrey brought up, what limited inventory means?
No,
Okay.
No.
Or occasional sales?
No.
That was not really defined, or, and it is ambiguous.
yeah,
And I think it's a valid question, but.
It is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, no one would see the impact. It's just how we are. We're not going to have a line. I think some people envision that there's going to be a line like at the worst times when there were lines going around the building at most gun stores. It's not going to be that way with us. So if
It never
anything, it's going to
was.
be one-on-one. It's friends and family and law enforcement and first responders is
And
what
a
we've
lot
always
of sport, we
catered
do a
to.
lot of sporty, a lot of guys that need their guns for hunting. My dad was a hunter and a fisherman his whole life. I was raised on venison, always in a hunting lodge. I mean, we do a lot for the hunters. They call up, they need a rifle, they need ammo, and we ship it to them. My brothers have a hunting lodge right there in Wyoming.
So,
Ship a lot to Wyoming, to the FFL there.
so the 200 guns, I mean, when they come in, how fast are you getting them out?
These will go out really quick.
These will go out quick because
Really
there's a shortage of guns right now. So as soon as right now I've suspended everything on my website. Everything is suspended until I get this in place.
Sure.
So I can't even legally sell them. So once I put them up on the website, they'll sell extremely
Quickly.
fast.
Yeah.
And we don't have FedEx come in to pick up.
No,
My wife
I drop off, I want a
that drops
a
off.
receipt for that, because that's
We've
going to
always done
another
that, yeah.
FFL. And I want to make sure that it's signed for and I can track it. So I always have, and I'm a bookkeeper, I'm a forensic bookkeeper, and I like that hard copy. So hard copy is important. So I physically go down and I drop it off.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay.
Thank you for
thank
your
you.
time. Sorry, I was rambling.
Okay, any questions for staff before we close public hearing? Then I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
I'll move. Second.
Okay, moved by Steve, second by Adam to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. What do you guys think?
I don't know, I've spoke on these before, and I understand some of the concern, but where it's such a high volume of internet stuff, I really don't see an issue, especially because of all the regulations that are put on them, whether it's a gun they're selling or whether it's coffee mugs. I don't really think that most 99.9% of people would know the difference. So, and with regular checks by ATF and everybody else, I don't see a problem with it. So.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, we've approved 10 CUPs in the last 2 years, and probably 50 or 60 since I've been on the different planning and zoning boards that I've been on, and we've never once had an issue with anybody. No one's ever had anything stolen out of their homes. Nobody's ever shot anybody with any of the guns they've sold, or nothing. So you know, they're doing the right thing in the right way.
Yeah, and I think what was presented here is not going to have, when you look at the evaluation criteria for CUP, especially on this particular issue, it's, the business in this home is not going to change the makeup of that neighborhood. You're not going to have, I mean, crud, at Christmas time, we all see 40 or 50 Amazon trucks come through our neighborhood. Well, my wife has like 3 or 4 stop a day. And so, but it's not, in the normal course of business, it's not going to change the environment of that neighborhood and the surrounding. I mean, I could see certainly if they put up signs and they had 4 or 5 cars pull up a day, that's something that we definitely would consider and probably not go. But I don't see anything changing. I really don't see anything changing with what's been presented here and the public testimony I've heard.
I mean, just make-
I was just waiting for someone else to say something.
Oh, I agree. I appreciate everybody's concerns, and I can see where they were concerned with safety, but yeah, I just don't see where we have any real grounds to stand on to say that you can't do it. I appreciate the neighbors' concerns, but I don't see where it's going to cause any issues in the neighborhood.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve this CUP, but I want to add a couple of things here as far as conditions.
We'll see if they fly.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw it in the wind. And it's based on some of the concerns that I heard in the public testimony, and I don't think they're out of line. But I want to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for home occupation firearms sales business in a RS6.
It's 8.5.
I'm sorry?
8.5, not 6.
Oh, you're right. RS 8.5 zoning district at 13334 South Stockbridge Way for the Georgieviches, if I got that right. And I would suggest adding this, that you continue to conduct business by appointment only. We make that a condition. And that the firearms and the ammo are properly, at all times, secured in storage, and that's it.
I have a clarification. I mean, obviously he's going to be selling these things, so you got to have some leeway to get them. You can't say all the time they have to be, but when he's not handling a transaction, that they have to be locked up.
And that's the word, that's where properly comes in, properly stored and in storage, so that when you're not selling them, then.
Or in a transaction mode, okay. All right.
I'll second
agree
it.
with that.
Okay, so motion by Jeff, second by Tom, to approve the conditional use permit with 2 conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's approved. Thank you. Okay. Item number 3, annexation and zoning to RMH for 523 North Happy Valley Road. Do we have the applicant here? All right.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Brandon Whalen. I'm with Hawkins Companies at 855 West Broad Street. That's in Boise, Idaho, 83706. I'm before you here tonight to present our application for Phase 2 of the Station at Gateway multifamily housing project that's located on the intersection of Stam and Happy Valley. We built Phase 1. There we go. We built Phase 1 about 3 years ago, and it has absolutely been one of the most successful projects that we've done. This is a vicinity map showing the Gateway Shopping Center, the hospitals there, close to the Garrity Exchange. And so there's where Phase 1 is. And Phase 2, where we're proposing, is right to the south of it. The zoning in the area is already RMH, and we're just looking to extend that to the south a little bit for 4 homes that are located just to the south of us. And there's also a vacation of East Orchard Avenue that we were requesting as a part of this application. The comprehensive plan designates the property as high-density residential. That's where the first phase is, and the second phase is just below that. This is the site plan for the station at Gateway. And why this is making so much sense for us at this point in time is we're having month after month occupancy rates at 97% or higher. There's always a bit of turnover in a multifamily housing complex, but this has stayed full the entire time. And we've got a beautiful clubhouse with a pool. We've got play areas for children. And so we thought just adding 110 units to the south, but still being able to benefit from those amenities just made sense. And so as you can see, this is the new building that we're proposing. There's 110 units there in a U-shaped formation, and it ties directly into buildings J and K that are in phase one. And the parking strip that is located there is actually the extension of the old East Orchard Lane. And so we can preserve a utility easement for overhead power lines, water and sewer lines that may be in the right-of-way. So as a portion of the vacation of the right-of-way, we would replace that with an easement for those utilities that are located in that vicinity. As I mentioned earlier, this is the existing clubhouse that the new residents would be able to use. This is the backside of it with the pool, hot tub in the middle there, and there's also several play areas for children. This is the building as I'm looking across Stam. That's located at the intersection of Happy Valley and Stam. That's the existing project. And the new building, the new construction will be of similar style, design. I did speak with Christy at the last meeting that I was at, and she said that there's a new design review board, the review that will take place. And she asked for 25% glazing along that frontage, those buildings that front along Happy Valley. And I shared that with the architect, and he said that there would not be a problem at all meeting that standard. So this is looking directly south on Happy Valley, and we've got a nice 7-foot wide sidewalk for people to get out of the streets and use. And we will extend that to the south with the phase 2 of this project. You can see a nice landscape buffer that we have from Happy Valley itself. And I think we just went in the wrong direction. And that's the remnant of the East Orchard Lane that we were asked for the vacation of. So I respectfully request a recommendation of approval for annexation and rezone case 192-21, as well as vacation request 048-2021. And with that, I would stand for any questions that you may have on behalf of this application.
Any questions at this time?
Are these going to be set up similar to what's already in place? Are they going to be, they're not separated buildings though, right?
They're not separated buildings. We're basically using the same design and bringing 3 buildings together because we found elevators are cheaper if we can get them to serve 2 buildings or a building and a half. So we're reducing the number of elevators by this configuration. It makes the 4th floor a heck of a lot easier to rent out.
I wondered why all those houses and property were up for sale all of a sudden, but now I know.
All right, we may have questions for you after.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Christy.
See if I can get this to go to the slideshow. There we go. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The request before you this evening is for the annexation and zoning assignment to RMH for the station at Gateway Number 2, which is a multifamily development of 110 dwelling units located at 623, 613, 607, and 523 North Happy Valley Way. And that includes the potentially vacated portion of Orchard Avenue, which tonight is not a decision for you to make. I put that in your staff report just for your reference so that you would know that it's coming. That will go to City Council for decision. So this property is currently outside the city limits in Canyon County, but it is contiguous to the city limits on the north and west sides. It's bordered on the north and west by RMH zoned properties, as the applicant mentioned, and by Canyon County ag zoned properties to the south and east. The applicable regulations or conclusions of law were listed in your staff report for the annexation, and those are to be contiguous with the city limits or enclaved by other properties. The area can be reasonably assumed to be available for orderly development in the city. The proposed zoning district is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan future land use map, or all of the involved private landowners raise no objection to the annexation. They entail or are composed of enclaved property, which is the same as the above. The difference between these two sections, one is state law and one is Nampa City Code, so I need to read them all to you as your conclusions of law. They entail property that is bounded on all sides by land within Nampa, and they entail property that are bounded on all sides by lands that are either within the city or in the boundary of the impact area. So for the zoning, I've listed the applicable regulations here for your reference from Nampa City Code. The proposed map amendment is or would be in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan and land use map. The proposed map amendment would provide a proposed use or set of uses that would be reasonably compatible with the existing or adjoining properties. The proposed map amendment would make a change on the land use map with the city, which would establish an area of zoning the same as or compatible with the immediately adjoining districts. The proposed map amendment would not create a spot zone. The proposed amendment would be in the interest of the public and or reasonably necessary. So the staff analysis regarding the zoning code, it is the land uses in the nearby area, and more particularly this site for development, both suggest that RMH zoning would be acceptable in this area, given that RMH zoning was already approved for the properties to the north and to the west. It is high-density residential in the comprehensive plan, which allows for 8+ dwelling units per acre. This project proposes 28.95 units per acre. The promotion of zoning, so it is determined by city code that the zoning should promote orderly, systematic development patterns. Because the property is adjacent to RMH zoned property and is within the high-density future land use designation, that would be the case here. Staff notes that in any site development that would be regulated at this location would be done so in accordance with the city code for the RMH zone and the design review, the new design review adopted regulations that went into effect as of yesterday. Nampa has determined that it is within the public interest to provide varying residential housing opportunities for all of its citizens, and that the current real estate market has a pressing need for this type of inventory. Safe routes to school analysis indicates that Columbia High School is approximately 1.5 miles away. East Valley Middle School is 3 miles away, and Endeavor Elementary School is over 2 miles away, so none of these will be within walking distance of this project. The Compass analysis for this states that the job to housing ratio in this area is 2.7. This indicates the need for more housing. The nearest police station is 3.1 miles away. The nearest fire station is 0.6 miles away. The nearest bus stop is 1.3 miles away. There's a public park 2.2 miles away, and the nearest grocery store is quite literally across the street. And there is no farmland being consumed. So the layout for this project, we did a review of the layout just to show that it conformed to the RMH codes, but it's just strictly for your reference. It's not necessary for your approval at this time because it will go into building permit and will be reviewed against the city codes that are in place currently. The overall site is 3.8 acres on one lot. So in the RMH zone, they are required to have 6,000 square feet for the first 2 units with 500 square feet of land for each additional unit proposed. So I broke down that formula for you in your staff report, and it ultimately comes out to a requirement of 60,000 square feet for that 110 units. They're proposing 165,628 square feet. So there will be plenty of parking and open space on this project. The lot width requirement is 50 feet. This property has a width of 442 feet. As for the parking code, it does meet parking at 226 surface parking spaces. It's required to have 220 plus any ADA that may be required. We will work on that with the building department as far as what ADA spaces would be required. There is a right-of-way dedication required from the section line in Happy Valley Road. Happy Valley Road is currently under Nampa Highway District, so they would be dedicating that amount, but they're only annexing the 25 feet that is their property and within our jurisdiction at this time. And then as far as the conceptual layout is concerned, they indicate for open space, as you guys have discussed in your compatibility discussions with City Council, they would have a central courtyard with green space and many amenities. It would include a connected sidewalk network throughout the site. The parking will be maintained around the exterior of the site, and the residents will not need to cross any drive aisles to visit other dwelling units. We did receive some public input from the building department, from CenturyLink, and from the engineering department with their standard comments and conditions. We also received some statistics from the police department that show the number and nature of offenses responded to over the last year at the stations at Gateway Apartments that have already been constructed, and that is in your staff report as well. The conditions of approval are listed in your staff report and include the same items that we previously discussed in the analysis and the correspondence. These would be your potential motions to recommend approval, to recommend denial, or to table to a certain date, and I will stand for any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Christy? Public hearing. Okay, I have a sign-up sheet. I have 2 people listed. Darla Bowers is on here, opposed and wishes to speak, either by phone or online. Is she online? Oh, she's here. All right, come on up, give us your name and address for the record, and you're gonna, all right.
Never been to one of these before, so I apologize if I'm.
Then you should have made her go first.
Well, give us your name and address.
Doug Bowers, 515 North Happy Valley.
Okay.
These apartments are going to be right out our door. And I know that our little town is growing up. We bought our property 30 years ago. You know, it was an acre of pasture and blood, sweat, and tears. And I know this is just a selfish complaint, but we're opposed to it because we like our little space and our privacy. And I guess I had more questions than anything, because like I said, we didn't know how this worked, like when it's going to start, how far is there going to be away, how far is the road going to come over? That was our concern.
Okay.
Are they going to come and take out our front yard? So.
Well, we can ask some questions about that for you.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I don't know. And the way it is now, it's hard to leave your home and go find something else in Nampa.
That's
If
true.
everybody's aware of that. But we'd like to stay where we are, but.
Okay. We'll try and get you some answers on when it's going to start and how close they're going to be.
How long and what time in the morning they're gonna start it. Shooting nails, and what time at night are they gonna finish, you know?
Okay.
'Cause it's, remember the first phase, and it was up the road from us, and we could hear it. It was loud,
Right.
so.
They need to bring donuts and coffee by when they start.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And there's another name on the list, Colby Halker, Hawkins Companies. It doesn't say opposed or for or neutral. Is that person here?
Colby's my boss.
Oh, well,
Hope he's for it then.
I'm probably going for, okay. Is there anybody else that's present that would like to speak for or against or undecided on this? Come on up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I'm not dressed for the occasion. This is my first time ever showing up like to these. But
Name and address, please, for the record.
So my name is Flavio Rosales, and I'm speaking for my mom. Her name's Ana Rosales, and we live in 508 North Happy Valley Road, which is right there in the corner of Happy Valley and Roberts. And we were just wondering if it's going to affect across the road. And so we stand neutral to it, so because like we just don't know like if it's going to affect anything across the road. So that's just the question I have.
Okay. We can have the applicant answer that for you then.
Sweet. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, do you want to come back up and address some of these?
Again, Brandon Whalen with Hawkins Companies. Madam Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, thank you for the opportunity to address these issues. First, Mr. Bowers brought up the question with regards to there shouldn't be any right-of-way dedication or road expansion in front of his property. Nothing in front of his property should change. And if you could show the site plan of the proposed Phase 2, his property is to the south of this. And so we purposely tried to have a nose-in parking stall. Those would be 20 feet. And then the drive aisle would be 25 feet. And then a double nose-in, so that would be another 40 feet there. So we're over 80 feet, another drive aisle, 85. So now we're at about 110 plus another section of nose-in. So we're about 130 feet. The building is pulled away from that southern property line. So that's our attempt to move our building as far away from those existing single-family homes as possible. It will cause the residents to walk a little further to their car, but we think that's a fair trade-off. And so,
I'm sorry, excuse me for interrupting you, but on that note, I know the current development doesn't have any type of fencing or barrier or anything like that, trees, that kind of stuff that would block the view. And is there going to be something like that on the south end of this new proposed development, so that, you know, tall trees, a sound barrier, something, whatever it might be?
Absolutely. And I did show the picture along Happy Valley, that it was set back and there was a landscape strip, and there's still young trees out there that will mature over time. And so a part of our plan would be to landscape around the perimeter and have some trees there that would grow up over time to help provide a softening both to deaden sound and the visual impacts of the building itself.
What about a fence, though, on the south end here that would separate this property from the neighbors?
I'm not sure that we had that planned, but adding a vinyl fence is not an issue if that were to be included as a condition of approval. We could deal with that. The next question that was brought up, and I'm sorry if I did not get your name, Gonzalez? Rosales. Thank you so much. We would not intend, we are hoping that we have a good community with our multifamily housing complex. And so we tried to provide amenities on site so people can enjoy the property. And we want the kind of people that are going to be good neighbors, so that they are respectful for the other neighbors. So when everybody needs to go to sleep, we don't have people partying and raising a muckus. That's not what we want in our neighborhood or in our multifamily housing complex. And so we want this to be a good fit in the neighborhood. We want this to be a good fit in the city of Nampa. But we also want to be a good neighbor as well. And so that's the kind of tenants that we want to bring onto the property, those that will be respectful to those around them, both to the other residents of the multifamily housing complex and to the neighborhood which it's located. So it would be our intent to have as little of impact on you as possible.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes, sir.
On the property line between the neighbors and your parking lot, you said you're going to put in some trees, and I see them there. Have you ever considered like arborvitae's, which evergreen, they won't see anything, and it helps to cut down on the noise, and there's no leaves falling on your neighborhood to be cleaned up, and no birds pooping on the cars, and why not arborvitae or something like that?
You know, that's a good question, and I'm guessing that it's going to be a maintenance issue, although I can't figure out what the maintenance issue would be. But of the commercial development and the residential development that Hawkins has done, I don't recall having seen the use of arborvitae in the landscaping plans. And for whatever reason, it's just not, it's not called out or.
Maybe you could look into it. Maybe it's oversight.
Sure.
I think it's spiders, because that's all that I find in arborvitae is spiders.
Well, we'll ban her from going out there.
What about construction?
Oh, thank you. So again, we try to be good neighbors. We don't like to start anything earlier than 7. It's about 7:30 is when people start showing up on property.
Okay.
And that's when the homeowners typically are leaving to work anyways. And so it's kind of trading places to an extent. When people are heading out the door to go to work is when the construction crews are coming onto the property. And they're usually wrapping up around 5 o'clock so that they're off the property by 5:30 or so when people are coming home. So it's basically, our work hours are the same as your work hours. And so when you're heading off to work, that's when we're coming to work. We would look to start the process as soon as possible. So with a recommendation to the city council after having a hearing there, we would then prepare documents for the design review process, go through that, and then we would do the construction drawings, go through a review with the city, and that takes about 8 weeks to generate and then 8 weeks to get reviewed. So we wouldn't be starting actual physical work on the property until I would say maybe end of June or July at the earliest.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion to close public hearing by Steve, seconded by Adam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Madam Chair, I have a question for staff, and it's probably going to be directed at you. And that is, and I noticed this in the staff report also, and would probably take it, but Happy Valley has that turn lane as you're moving, as you're heading south on Happy Valley, that ends right at the end of the current development that's right there. That's going to be extended, I would assume, to keep that turn lane in there, because it crunches right there at that pinch point.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, the apartments that are currently there were built under the old standards for our roadway improvements. They will be required to extend sidewalk along their entire frontage. They will also have to do turn lane analysis for their entrances to determine if they need turn lanes coming in and out of those. But if the analysis does not show the need for that, they will not be required to do any pavement widening on the frontage of this portion of the project. Now, for a consistency and look, if they want to, we certainly will work with them to do that, but that's not something that would be required of them based on the code amendments that happened a couple of years ago when we raised our impact fees.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we need to say something about the fence between the neighbors, especially with all the nose-in parking. I mean, if I lived there, I wouldn't want 50 cars shining lights when they left
Exactly.
through my bedroom window. I don't know exactly how their house is laid out. But
Again, arborvitae would,
Yeah.
and all that, matter, but a fence would too, but a fence would not cut down the sound as much as the arborvitae would.
There's, Commissioners, are you familiar with that stretch of road, Happy Valley? I'm just a little concerned at that pinch point there, heading south on Happy Valley past the current apartments. Because you got cars that are parked right there. First of all, they use that as a parking spot to get into their apartments. And to not have, and I know they're gonna do a traffic analysis, but what happens if the analysis says they don't need to put in a turn lane? I wonder if we should make that a condition, or could we? Might be what do you think?
I'm not a traffic pro, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not either.
That's a cop-out.
Well, I got shot down on Roosevelt anyway, so.
Well,
Somebody needs to say something.
I'll make the motion. All right, Madam Chair, I would like to make the motion that we recommend annexation and zoning to RMH for 623, 613, 607, 523 North Happy Valley Road. Let's see. For Brandon Whalen representing Colby Hawker, with all conditions of staff, including a vinyl fence around all abutting properties.
Around the southern border.
Is it southern and?
there's residential properties to the west, too.
Okay, so along the south and the west portion of the property.
Okay, so it's been moved by Adam, seconded by Michelle to recommend to City Council. All those in favor?
Aye.
What?
Excuse me, sorry. Can we clarify that motion, just the condition of the fence and make that a privacy fence? Because a vinyl fence could be a rail fence or anything like that. So let's just be clear on a vinyl privacy fence around the south and west sides of the property.
You still second, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All righty, number 4, conditional use permit for vehicle aftermarket reconditioning center. Do we have the applicant? Yeah, looks like.
My name's Dave Edmark. I live at 3058 South White Post Way. God bless you guys for coming down these evenings and staying here. I don't do this very often, and then when I've done it in the past, I always just had little pictures on thumb drives, and now they told me I should have had a PowerPoint, so we might be in trouble. Plus, I went to Nampa High School, and they didn't teach that then. What I want to discuss tonight is a new project Edmark Toyota is proposing. And I'll get in and out of here in hopefully about 5 minutes if I can for you. Real quick, I just wanted to give you a little bit of history. No, it's not going to work, is it?
While we're waiting.
Well, I always follow with pictures, so if it takes that long, we're in trouble.
It's government property, so it usually takes.
We started way back in Nampa in 1927, downtown, next to Munster's Hardware. Next slide, we'll just flip through these. That was in the 20s, the 30s, click away right there, the 40s, the 50s. I love Phone 18. We were, that was the 1960s, the 60s, the 70s. That's where I started, 1977. And then in 1999, we moved out and anchored the Auto Mall. And when we built that thing, I remember my dad going, "Are you out of your mind? There's not another business within a mile of here." But things have changed over the last 20 years. And I love this town. I love being a part of this community. Next slide. We're deeply rooted here. This is our new store, the Toyota store, that I'm really proud of. Last year, we were the placed third in new car sales in the state of Idaho, right here in Little Nampa. And number one was my old store, that one you just saw. So Nampa is a good car town, but we're deeply rooted in this community. Next slide. We sponsor all the youth soccer here, over 900 kids every weekend. Next slide. We saw girls and boys. Next slide. Babe Ruth baseball, Optimus football, every event. In fact, our budget this year for community events in Nampa is $152,000. I'm 2.5 months in. We got $82,000 spent, but we love this community, and we hope you're going to help us continue to grow. Next slide, if you could. Here's our current location. It was built in 2005. I purchased this store in 2017. That's my son right there. I'm going to be done after this year, 45 years of nights and weekends, but he's going to do a great job. The property we're talking about expanding on is to the north, to the right there. I'll show a better picture here in a second. We're seeing phenomenal growth, as you guys know. We sat down with Toyota about 2 years ago, and they said, it's coming. You need to get ready. We've got Boise pegged to hit over 1 million people in 29. We want to get it done with 2 dealers in this valley, but you're going to need some room to grow. So we immediately started acquiring property and planning for growth. A couple of quick numbers. 2017, we serviced 24,000 customers at our dealership. Last year, it was 38,000. So in 3 years, we had a 63% increase. And I think, as you guys know, and you deal with every week or every month, growth is going to come, and businesses have to adapt to that. An auto dealer, we just can't move and get a bigger office space down the road or something. We're pretty planted. Next slide. Just right there, the property we're talking about is right at the bottom of the screen here. And what we're proposing is a 15,000. We've just outgrown the other facility, so it's going to be a multi-purpose facility. We're moving our business office there with 11 people. We're moving more parts warehousing there where we store parts to repair cars. We're going to be moving what we call internal repair, which is new vehicles that haven't been sold yet and used vehicles that haven't been sold yet. The heavy line customer repair, we're leaving in the main facility. So we're bringing some things. I was going to try to do it on that side across the street, and there's no parking. As you know, we don't have the parking to do it. We're taking that bottom building right there, and that's going to be, we're going from 2 oil change bays. We do about 130 oil changes a day, and we're going from 2 bays to 8. On the east side, we just front up to the back of a strip mall, and should be it's going to be built to all the Toyota standards, Red 2 they call it. It's very expensive. It's about $200 a square foot to build, top flight materials. Toyota's involved in the design, and they build beautiful buildings. Next slide. Is there anything else there? Click over to the project, if you could. He's doing a great job. So here's kind of what it looks like we're proposing. And the colors haven't been set at all. This is our architects, but it's a building. Our office would kind of be in that front section. The service area would be on the back, and then parts, support, warehousing, all that would be on that section on the front. All masonry cinder block, glass block, a lot of light, big glass windows to let light in. And I think it'd be a beautiful facility. Next slide, if I can remember what's there. I know there's concern about how we're 110 feet back of the street off of Brunson, I believe it's called. And then on the other side is an alleyway that just backs up to the back of the strip malls. But parking's not an issue. Everything's contained in here. We're not going to be doing anything outside. Everything will be inside behind doors, except for employee parking. We're hoping to add 15 to 20 new employees here. Last year, my average guy made $63,000. They make a good living. They work hard. They work nights. We work weekends. 8 to 8, half days. As we always called it, yeah, that's, somebody asks me, hey, what schedule do you guys work? And we go, we're on half days. And they go, oh God, I love half days. 8 to 8, or 9 to 9. Next slide. Is there another one? That might be it. Last thing I want to do, and just talk a little bit about the area. There's concern that Class A business, doctor's offices, all these kind of things. The GB1, to me, is a pretty unique deal. I remember I was around when we were forming it. If you could pull up, there should be one there on Neighbors, I think I had, or, yep. So there's kind of GB1. I know you guys know this well. We're up in the very top right-hand or left-hand corner, or in that right there. Is where we're looking at doing it. And we've got everything from, the Idaho Center to 8 auto dealers to, veterinary centers to Amazon and everything in between. Next slide. We're again on that upper left-hand corner, on that right there. They just built a brand new big storage complex on the top left. You may point that out. I have actually some pictures of that. The core ones, they just built the exact same facility we're getting ready to build. I'll show you here. Mine's a lot better looking, and it's not quite as big because Toyotas aren't as big as those giant Ford trucks, but same exact problem we have. Next slide. Here's the storage unit, beautiful storage unit, still storage units across the street. Next one, the gates, that's what a storage unit is. We got a dance academy just went in. I tried to pick things that were just built in the last couple of years. They just completed, this is the Corwin Reconditioning Center. A lot of metal in that. Ours is going to be all block masonry. Same type of glass windows and light. Next slide. This is the regional office for fish and game. And heavy duty shop, storage, metal buildings, but it's all, as you know, there's 120 different uses in that GB1. It encompasses everything from bars to nightclubs to nurseries to, so I think the point you're probably going to hear is that this is all Class A office. I don't think that's what it was designed for mixed use. Next slide. Amazon, there's a big warehouse if you ever saw one. I bet you that was a fun meeting to sit in when you guys had to figure that one out. And I think that's it. Here's what I tell you. We've been in this town a long time. We support this community. We're growing. We have to grow because people need their vehicles serviced. And we think we do a world-class job. We have full-time maintenance people. Our facilities are immaculate. Come out. We wash every car twice a week. I'm really proud, and we put a lot of effort into it, and I think we'll be a great addition to the community.
Thank you. Okay, Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested from you tonight is the approval or denial of the conditional use permit for vehicle aftermarket reconditioning center in a GB1 zone for Edmark Toyota. The property is located inside city limits in the zone GB1, gateway business. It is designated as commercial in the future land use map. The lot is 2.74 acres and it's surrounded by GB1 zone properties. To the north is vacant. South is car lot owned by the same applicant. East is restaurants and retail. West being medical business park. All public utilities and services are available to the property. The property is currently vacant with sidewalks in place on North Brinson Street. The development would provide 28 off-street parking spots for employees or customers. Because the applicant would be adjusting lot lines, the property address would be changed because it would no longer have access to Idaho Center Boulevard. This is a concept plan that we looked at. Please note that buildings in the GB1 zone will have to go through design review and meet all of the design review code requirements. So this will most likely change in the future. The in 1041, it states the GB Gateway Business District is established to allow for the consistent development of areas surrounding community gateways or entryways. It is designed to ensure that uses developing in these areas are compatible in nature and appearance and are encouraged to feature high standards of architecture, landscaping, and site planning. The GB1 district is intended for mixed use, primarily commercial development, allowing a variety of highest and best land use alternatives with flexible development standards. And they are subject to design review, as I stated. In regard to conditional use permits, the aftermarket reconditioning center is not a use listed in our code, so it falls under 1032B, which states the director shall interpret the appropriate district for land use is not specifically listed, which would require that they get a conditional use permit. Where a use is proposed and ambiguity exists, it allows you to place conditions on that use. This mirrors the action of a similar permit that was approved in the same zoning district in 2017 for Corwin Ford, as we discussed, nearby the Amazon warehouse. Once again, 1025 sets forth the criteria for approval of a conditional use permit. Sorry, I skipped a slide. This is land uses in GB1 zone that might encompass the uses in this application. So the permitted land uses in the GB1 zone are new auto sales, non-permitted uses being used car and truck sales, auto repair, an auto body paint shop. Conditionally permitted would be auto parts and accessories, radiator repair, tire shop, and car wash. 1025 sets forth the criteria, the conclusions of law that you will use in your decision for this conditional use permit. And we can go over those if you wish. The correspondence engineering had no concerns. Site development will be subject to all city codes. Development from the building department, it's subject to Title IV. Lumen requests construction plans if it encroaches on facilities, and Highway District had no comment. Once again, we received multiple letters from interested parties for the application. They were all sent to you before tonight, but I've made a summary. They stated the use devalues the adjacent properties. It's not a business park use, but an industrial park use. It does not bring customers or complement nearby businesses. It's not in the interest of the public, and it's nothing more than an automobile body shop. If the commission chooses to approve the permit, here are a list of potential conditions, which are listed in the staff report that can be added to or changed upon consideration. These potential conditions may seem limited, but if the project's approved, they still have to go through design review and the building permit process, which will continue to add those conditions to it. Now would be your time to add conditions if you wish to approve and add any conditions to that. Here are potential motions for you with the conclusions of law, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Parker? Okay, we'll go on to public hearing. I have a sign-up sheet here. I have a person, Diane Chacon is opposed and would like to speak. Did I butcher your last name? Chacon, okay. Okay. Give us your name and address for the record, and then tell us what you think.
Okay. Diane Chacon. My address is 5744 North Big Cedar Avenue in Meridian, Idaho. And I sent you some slides that I'd like to show. We've been developing the property in this area for probably about 10 years. We developed the Aspen Creek Business Center that has the College of Idaho buildings. It's a beautiful development, Class A office, and it has contributed a great deal to that area. We have moved up the road now, and we've been developing this area, and where the proposed center is located on the original site map that the owner of that property, Kevin Spencer, showed us. There was a proposed hotel there, and we thought, oh, this is great. This is great for development. We'll build some beautiful buildings, and this is the latest one we did. This is a 22,000 square foot office, and we have some medical going in there. We have a chiropractor. We have a physical therapist. We currently have doctors from out of state looking at going in the top floor, and then some office that is looking at it right now. Can you go to the next one? This is a building that's proposed. It's not finished yet, but this is going to be, there's somebody looking at purchasing. We're going to build that for them, a 10,000 square foot office building. Go ahead, yeah. This one is called the Summit Professional Building. Now, these are all buildings that are across the street from the proposed site. So what Mr. Edmark showed you were buildings of the industrial use that's back behind, that backs right up to the hill that's back there. And I think that's a totally appropriate area for those industrial buildings. But all of these are nice $1 million constructed office buildings, multi-million. And we've spent a lot of money just in reliance on the fact that this was going to be Gateway Business 1 with high-end office medical use. And I think that this has all benefited the hospital in the area, the people that live in the area, the taxing district. You know, the amount of tax that we pay on these buildings is significant. And so so this is the Summit Professional Building. This also has some medical in it. This is the smallest one that we've built in there. It's about 3,200 square feet. It's a home office or a home hospice kind of care place. This is a condo building that we did that was a little over 10,000 square feet. Can you go to the next one, please? I think there was another slide. Yeah. And so this is the picture of the Corwin Ford. So to me, it was a little devastating if this was what we were going to have right next to our multi-million-dollar buildings that we've tried so hard to improve that area. And we really would like to do that in the future. I mean, we had our eyes also on this piece of land. I think the hotel deal fell through. And so therefore, I guess Mr. Spencer has decided to sell to, to put in something that was less desirable. And I don't think it's conducive. It's an auto body shop next to these multi-million-dollar buildings. I'm devastated. In reading about this, that there's going to be around the perimeter, we'll have a site obscuring security fence and access to the sidewalk will be controlled with sliding gates. This is going to be next to our multi-million-dollar buildings. And so I just implore that you would consider to not approve the conditional use permit. I think there's other areas that would be much more appropriate than right in between our office buildings, and then have this there with a big fence around it. And in 2015, Westside Auto Body wanted to build an auto body shop right near this property. It was on Hunt Street and Idaho Center Boulevard.
Okay, you're out of time.
Okay,
So
I'm sorry.
one final comment and you're done.
Mr. Edmark opposed that, and it was turned down. So that's all I'll say.
So just a clarifying question. These buildings that you're talking about, this is in that medical complex that sits behind Brunson or
It's
on
just
Brunson and,
west of Brinson.
Okay.
Just right behind it.
and then you also developed the corner of Birch and Idaho Center Boulevard, the Aspen.
We did.
Okay. I just was trying to get my bearings there.
Thank you. Okay, next person that has signed up to speak is Michael Chu, Michael Chu.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Michael Chu, Professional Building Management, P.O. Box 406, Eagle, Idaho. I represent Reasonable Rentals, LP, that owns 16211 North Brinson Street. It's a 19,508 square foot, two-story multi-tenant Class A office building. It's known as the Summit Professional Building. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to prepare a really fancy PowerPoint demonstration with pictures and all that. I do have my PDF that gives my bullet point opposition points that my client, Reasonable Rentals, has. Primarily, where I'm getting from this one is my client purchased this property based on the GB1 or Gateway Business Zoning and the surrounding Class A office buildings that are around it in the medical space. With the idea that this is going to be a office complex in a mixed-use deal. So what we've got here is, what we're looking at is really a non-conforming use being built right across the street. So the primary concern really is that our use is non-industrial, Class A. I mean, the tenants surrounding it are Advanced Healthcare for Women, Allegis Benefits Group, Encompass Health, Idaho Therapy, Evergreen Mortgage, Edward Jones, Idaho Surgical, Best Home Care. What Edmark had shown is really more auto use. And if I may, if we could go back to the slide that shows the site plan that was part of the exhibit, their space, or what they're looking at is converting 2.74 acres. If you look also to the very, I believe it's the east of that, or where the parking lot is, that doesn't include the parking structure as well, where they store vehicles. So we've got 2.74 acres, we've got vehicle storage. We're going to have this surrounded by again, side screwing fence. It's in essence auto body. It's light industrial use. The light industrial, look at the top of the exhibit. That's what is that? That's Idaho. I'm trying to remember the name. I'm sorry. Western Idaho. We have issues with trucks parking along Hunt Street as it is. That's really not there. So really what we're doing is we're encroaching in light industrial use into what we were considered to be, Class A office, and not just medical. And this space really benefits Nampa because it serves St. Al's, it serves business users that are currently commuting to other cities. I mean, that was the whole idea behind GB1, right? So the concern really is this is a large expansion for Edmark Toyota into really squashing out, mixed use office space. So the idea that really that vacant lot that they're looking at was originally supposed to be, I believe, a hotel, additional office, really just to have a good mixture in GB1. this really is just going to be almost completely and totally auto use. So all of our tenants, the 9 tenants we have, are objecting to it. So that's kind of where I am. I'm running a little short on time. It really doesn't benefit the surrounding ones. It benefits Edmark quite a bit, not so much everyone else. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, the next person that is signed up on here is Jenny Coleman.
Can you hear me?
Okay. All right, Jenny, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, Jenny Coleman, 523 Sherry Road, Nampa, Idaho. It's very echoey on my end, so I'm just going to make this very short. So I am in the building, Advanced Specialty Care for Women, that is directly across the street from where they want to develop. And it would directly impact our office in just with the multi-million dollar around the office area. It would definitely affect us as well, with being a doctor's office and then having the cars right there in front of us. We already have an issue with parking with employees and trucks and everything out on that street on Hunts and Brinson. It's been a really big deal. And then to have this come in, it's just not something that we want. We definitely oppose it. Like I said, it's very, very echoey. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's echoing so bad on this side. It's very much bothering me. So I just wanted to put in our opposition that we are against this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and that, well, Michael's on here again, so he signed up twice to speak. So, okay, is there anybody else that's here that would like to speak? You are, but you said you didn't want to speak, but you are certainly welcome to speak.
You're allowed to change your mind.
Okay. So Carol Struthers, the address is 5325 West Bloom Street in Boise, Idaho. And my husband and I have bought a couple of properties. One of them is the Encompass building, which would be directly on the other side of the street from this building. And we've owned that for 5 years, and we do have a 7-year lease with the home hospice. It's a home health care place, and I don't know if they would be interested in renewing their lease with that new building across the street. And, we plan on keeping these buildings as, part of our retirement. And I also want to just say that the buildings that they showed were over by Amazon and not the buildings that they were going to build next to, which are the buildings that Diane was showing. So I oppose this, and I think that, the whole reason that they wanted the Gateway District was so that this didn't look like Napa-Colville Boulevard. And I mean, we've all seen the effects of what happened on the old Fairview Avenue in Boise. Once the car lots moved out, it was like a ghost town. I mean, there's stuff going on now, but I just think that, it's not a good idea to just keep expanding this auto business.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
We have
online,
two online.
2 online, okay. Pick one.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I just wanted to piggyback a couple other points as well that the others
your
have
name
already
and
shared.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Heidi Chu, and my address is P.O. Box 406 in Eagle. And I am with Reasonable Rentals, with the building that is also in that same center across the street at 16211 North Brinson. And I also wanted to bring up just that when we had purchased the building only a little over a year ago, we were very enthusiastic about the way that the Class A buildings looked, that they were medical. We were hoping to get a draw from that area. And anything around that area, we were expecting it to be something similar so that we could kind of cross-pollinate the businesses and draw more of that type of business to our complex as well, kind of feed off of each other. So I'm questioning if this is really the highest and best use for that piece of land. I realize that it's convenient and everything else for the for Edmark, but that there are other industrial areas in close proximity, and also that for our second story people, they'll also be looking down onto it. So as far as cars or whatever else might be in the parking lot, they would be looking at that. And it just converts a substantial amount of the land from GB1 to light industrial through the CUP if this was approved. And I also really felt that NAMPA created this was created, this zoning, in order to maintain an offering of multi-tenant office leasing to stay within NAMPA, so that people would come to the city, be able to provide office use for them, for the employees and for companies, and that they would be spending their money there in Nampa for food, housing, and everything else, and leasing from these properties here, or in some situations, people are buying and doing owner use as well. And then the last thing was, I'm just also questioning the aesthetic of it. I mean, it looks like a nice building, but it is different compared to what our buildings are across the street. Ours are not cinder block. Ours are very nicely, just a different look aesthetically for sure. And so I am opposed to the CUP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parker, you have another one?
Madam Chair, I don't have anybody else.
Oh, okay. All right. Does the applicant want to come up here and address some concerns?
Tinnitus, all that good stuff.
We get a lot of people sleeping in the audience, don't worry about it.
Why does everybody not like us? But, 20 years ago, all the auto dealers, we got together and we moved out to this area together because we knew we were going to need room to grow, and then everybody followed us. This is an auto dealer area. It was founded by auto dealers. If you could pull the map back up again, and this land actually would be adjacent to the current facility if the city wouldn't have put that new road up to the golf course.
You mean Franklin?
Franklin, yeah. But the Mitsubishi store, all these people that have this office space, the Mitsubishi store is right there to the north. There's a lumber yard right there to the north. The storage condos on 10 acres right there are right there to the north. And they're all very nice. And there's some Class A office in there, but it's mixed use. That's what GD1 is. This is not an auto body shop. In 45 years in the business, I've never been in the auto body business. I have no desire to be. I don't know anything about it. This is a sales and service facility. We sell cars and we repair cars mechanically.
Yeah, we're not going to be doing heavy collision repair. There's not going to be tow trucks dropping off wrecked cars. That's not.
No, this is tires, oil changes, tune-ups. We're leaving the heavy stuff in the main facility. We won't be doing any on-street parking. And virtually all the vehicles being repaired will be inside the building. It's got 20 bays in there for cars to be in. Traffic to it, we're anticipating 10 to 15 a day. That's about how many vehicles we sell, and that's about how many are going to come in and go out. So compared to the Sonic and the that you can't ever get into, and the Jack in the Box right to the west, this thing is going to have the lowest impact of anything in that area. I really believe that.
Will there be any cars stored outside, like overnight or?
Yeah, there's probably going to be 100 vehicles around that facility, and that's why we actually, when we're working with the architects, it was my idea to put up a privacy fence around it just to try and be neighborly and have those things out of sight.
I don't think there'll be that many. There might be 40 or 50.
Okay.
Of things in process, and also, so if they showed that map again, about half of that map, we already own that property, and that's going to be vehicle display. So this 2 acres, we already owned a big portion of that. And that's for new vehicle display, those shiny, beautiful new Toyotas. And then adjacent to our, we owned up right up to in between that Sonic building that's up there. And I don't know how that got drawn that way, but we haven't developed that part yet, but we've owned that for several years. Yeah, but again, I look at the GD1. If somebody didn't want to be in a mixed-use area, then I wouldn't have gone there.
And we really looked at some of the, approved uses, freight transfer station. I can only imagine trucks in and out of there hauling heavy freight all day. Taxidermy office, mortuary, funeral home,
That's mixed use.
Yeah, there's a lot of uses for GB1. And that GB1 area is a very large area, so.
Let's let these guys get out of here.
Yep. Any other questions from you guys?
Nope, thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
guys.
I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So, second.
Okay, motion by Steve, second by Jeff to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion are on the board. What are you guys thinking?
Well, I don't want to go first, but I'll go first. I bought cars in this area for years. I lived in the Valley since '86, and I lived in Boise, but for some reason I bought cars in Nampa. Don't ask me why, I don't know, but it must have been the price or something. And I agree with Mr. Edmark. I mean, they put all their facilities in one place, which makes perfect sense to me. So I don't think it makes any sense to ask him to move down the street to get his repairs, I shouldn't say repairs, to service his vehicles. What's the word for that? There's a prepping cars or something?
Service, I mean, yeah, just maintenance, service.
Okay.
Preconditioning.
Yeah, preconditioning, there you go. Why have him have it, half a mile down the street where he's got a jockey car back and forth all the time and just create more traffic? Here, he's right across the street and get it over with. Get him out of there. So that's what I feel. And it's all GB1 area too. It's not changing the zoning anything.
But it's a conditional use permit.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. We approved several of those tonight. Not a gun business, is it?
Madam Chair, I actually drive by these guys multiple times a day, and they've always got a nice-looking facility. The cars are clean. I felt bad for the guys the other day trying to get water, and the wind was blowing the water faster than they could spray it. But they were doing their best. And I drive by them constantly, and they have a nice-looking place. All those car lots over there keep the appearance up. You've got to have something between that little strip mall of restaurants and haircutting place and car parts at the end and these nice office buildings. And they are very nice office buildings. I have to tell you that because I drive through there. But you have to have something that's going to go between the two. And honestly, I think the building's going to look nice, and I can't see why it can't go there and kind of have a transition. And it's like they say, they're not going to be dragging beat up cars in. They're prepping them to go back out and turn them around. So I think it's a nice idea, and I think keeping their business all in one place is a great, and they have to be able to expand. We're growing, they have to be able to sell more cars and take care of more cars, and the only way they can do that is to build a new facility, and to keep it in the same spot just makes sense.
Madam Chair, the concerns that I've heard in public testimony, I think can be concise to, is this compatible for the area? And when we look at approving or disapproving conditional use permits, that's one of the criteria that we look at. Is this compatible for this area? Is it inconsistent or is it consistent with this area? The answer for me is, given everything out there, yeah, this is consistent with what is already there. The expansion of this maintenance facility is totally consistent with out there. You got 8 dealerships or whatever out there. It does fit the area. I don't think there's ever been a concern that it doesn't look nice. It's always well kept. The lots are organized. The cars, I'm always amazed at it, not just at this dealership, but all the dealerships, how all the noses of the cars are perfectly aligned. And that's an eye-catching, kind of pleasing thing if you're going to have dealerships out there in all this area. So I I'm for this project because it's consistent with the area. And that is one of the criteria that we look at when we're approving or disapproving CUPs.
So you're going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion then. I'm getting pushed right along here, aren't I? So on that, Madam Chair, I will make a motion. Oh, I gotta find my motions. I can't see that far up there.
Can't either.
Increase the. I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for vehicle aftermarket and reconditioning center in a GB1 zoning district at 16115 and 16207 Idaho Center Boulevard. Or Edmark Toyota, representing EFHC LLC, with conditions of staff in our staff report.
Second?
Okay, motion by Jeff, seconded by Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's done. That concludes our meeting for tonight.